You love your dog. You would never intentionally hurt them. And yet, trust between a dog and their owner can erode quietly, gradually, through actions that feel completely reasonable from the human side. Actions done out of frustration, impatience, or simply not knowing what those actions look like from the dog's perspective. Trust is not a single moment. It's a record. Every interaction adds something to it, a small deposit or a small withdrawal. Most people think about the withdrawals in dramatic terms: abuse, neglect, severe punishment. But the more common erosion is much quieter than that. It happens in the ordinary moments. The punishment that came too late, the signal that was ignored, the boundary that kept shifting, the situation they needed you to protect them from, and you didn't. None of these feel like betrayal from where you're standing. But from where your dog is standing, each one is a piece of information about whether you're safe, predictable, and on their side. A dog who doesn't fully trust their owner is not a happy dog. They're not broken, and they're not bad. They're a dog who has learned that the world, including their own person, is unpredictable in ways that require them to stay alert, stay careful, and sometimes manage things themselves. That is an exhausting way to live, and it produces exactly the kinds of behavior owners find most frustrating: anxiety, reactivity, avoidance, or explosive responses that seem to come from nowhere. Understanding what breaks trust allows you to stop breaking it and to start building it back. Here are 5 things that most commonly undermine it. 1. Punishing them for something they did in the past. You come home and something is wrong. There's a mess on the floor. Something has been chewed. A garbage can is on its side in the kitchen. You feel a flash of frustration. This is not the first time, and you go looking for the dog. You find them. Maybe they're already acting guilty. Head low, ears back, eyes soft, creeping. And you react. You raise your voice. You point at the mess. You want them to know what they did. Here is the fundamental problem. By the time you got home, the dog's brain has already moved on. Dogs process consequences in time windows that are measured in seconds, not hours. The research on this is consistent and unambiguous. A dog cannot connect a punishment administered minutes or hours after a behavior to that specific behavior. The associative link simply isn't there. What they can connect is, my person arrived, and then something bad happened. My person is unpredictable when they come home. When my person finds a certain thing in a certain state, the energy shifts in a way that is scary and confusing. The guilty look that seems to confirm they know what they did is not evidence of guilt. It's a learned appeasement response. They've learned that a specific combination of your body language, tone, and facial expression precedes something unpleasant, and they're trying to de-escalate it. They're not confessing. They're trying to survive a social moment that has become, over time, frightening and unpredictable. So, punishing after the fact doesn't teach them what you want them to learn. It teaches them that you are unpredictable, that you can be kind, and then you can be frightening. And the shift between the two doesn't follow rules they can understand. That uncertainty is antithetical to trust. The solution is practical. Manage the environment so they can't access the things that get them into trouble when you're not there. Keep the garbage behind a cabinet. Don't leave food on the counter. Crate or confine them when needed. Address the behavior in real time when you can actually catch it with a calm interruption and a redirect, not a punishment. Save your corrections for moments when they can learn from them. And when you come home to a mess, take a breath, clean it up, and decide to solve the access problem rather than the dog problem. They weren't being bad. They were being a dog in an environment that gave them access to things they shouldn't have had. 2. Ignoring or overriding their no. Dogs communicate discomfort constantly. The language is not loud and it is not dramatic. It is a freeze, a lip lick, a yawn in a context where the dog isn't tired, a subtle turn of the head, a leaning back, a body that goes slightly stiff, a tail that tucks or stops moving, a low, quiet growl. These are not random behaviors. They are polite, controlled attempts by the dog to say, "This is too much. I'm not comfortable. I need this to stop or slow down." When we override those signals, when we keep petting after the dog has turned their head away, when we push them toward the stranger they've clearly backed away from, when we insist on the hug after the dog has gone stiff, when we tell the child, "It's fine, he won't bite," while the dog is holding very, very still. We are teaching the dog something specific. Your communication doesn't work. Your signals are not respected. When something is too much, no signal you send will change anything. Dogs who reach this conclusion go one of two directions. Some shut down entirely. They stop giving the polite signals because experience has taught them that those signals accomplish nothing. They become what people often describe as tolerant or patient, but it is not patience. It is learned helplessness. The dog has stopped trying to advocate for themselves because they have learned that advocacy is useless. Other dogs escalate. When the growl is punished or ignored, they learn that the growl doesn't protect them either. So they skip straight to the snap. They have been labeled unpredictable and bit without warning, when in reality they gave every warning they had, and every warning was ignored. Listening to your dog's no is not indulging bad behavior. It is the foundation of trust. When your dog says, "I need this to stop," and you respond by making it stop, you are teaching them that their communication reaches you, that you are safe, that they don't have to manage things on their own. That is the environment in which a dog can relax and trust. 3. Inconsistent rules and unpredictable reactions. Dogs are extraordinarily good at learning. The speed with which they make associations, behavior leads to consequence, context predicts outcome, is remarkable. But this cognitive strength depends on one thing: the environment giving them consistent information to learn from. When the rules shift without explanation, when something is allowed one day and punished the next, when the same behavior gets a laugh in the morning and a scolding in the evening, when different household members enforce entirely different standards, the dog is not learning. They are trying to learn and receiving contradictory data. The result is not a dog who doesn't understand. It's a dog who is in a state of low-level chronic stress because the environment they live in cannot be predicted. Predictability is safety. For a social animal living with creatures whose behavior determines whether they eat, whether they have a home, whether they are comfortable, the ability to predict what will happen is not a minor comfort. It is the basis of security. A dog who knows what to expect can relax. A dog who cannot predict their environment, even if the environment is not actively dangerous, cannot fully relax. They stay in a constant state of assessment, trying to read every moment for clues about what is coming. This kind of inconsistency often comes from entirely good intentions. You think you're being spontaneous or flexible or reading the situation. The dog experiences it as randomness, and randomness is stress. Pick your rules. Communicate them clearly in every interaction. Make sure everyone in the household holds to the same standards. Not because rigid rules are what dogs need, but because clarity is what dogs need. And consistent rules are how clarity is communicated through behavior. Subscribe if you're starting to see how much these everyday moments shape your dog's sense of safety, because the next two are the ones most people don't expect to hear. 4. Using fear or pain as training tools. This is not easy to address without people feeling accused of something they didn't intend. So let's be direct. Many people use fear and pain in dog training not because they're cruel, but because they were told it works, because they saw it modeled, or because in the short term, it does produce a result that looks like compliance. It does work in the narrowest possible sense. A dog who is afraid of a consequence will avoid the behavior that precedes it. That is a real and measurable learning outcome. But the thing that is learned is not, "I shouldn't do this because it leads to a better outcome." It is, "I should not do this because doing it is dangerous." And the entity that is associated with that danger, over time, through repetition, is you. The most researched finding in applied animal behavior is this: dogs trained primarily through aversive methods, punishment, physical correction, intimidation, show higher levels of stress during training sessions, have worse long-term retention of trained behaviors, are more likely to develop generalized anxiety, and are significantly more likely to aggress toward both familiar and unfamiliar people. These are not small or marginal effects. They are consistent across species, across types of aversive tools, and across levels of severity. The alternative is not soft or permissive. Reward-based training is effective, fast, and produces dogs who are actively engaged in the learning process because the learning process brings good things. The distinction is not structure versus no structure. It is learning from fear versus learning from choice. Dogs taught through choice-based methods come to training as participants. Dogs taught through fear come to training as prisoners waiting for the session to end. If you use fear or pain, even occasionally, even mildly, look at what your dog's body looks like during those moments. Are they engaged and bright? Or are they flat, submissive, trying to make themselves smaller? That body language is your answer. 5. Leaving them alone in situations that overwhelm them. Your dog counts on you for one thing above everything else: to be safe. Not to be happy all the time, not to be stimulated or entertained, safe. And safe includes the implicit promise that when something is too much, you will step in. When a dog is in an overwhelming situation, whether that's a dog park with too many unfamiliar dogs, a party with too much noise and too many strangers reaching at them, a child who doesn't understand how to be gentle, or anything else that produces clear stress signals, and they look to you and you don't respond, something specific happens in their understanding of the relationship. They learn that when things are scary or overwhelming, they are on their own. The person who is supposed to be the safe base is not responding to their signals. The protection they've assumed was available is not there. And if they want relief from the situation, they're going to have to get it themselves. This is exactly how many reactive and aggressive responses develop. Not from inherent aggression or bad breeding, or a dog who just turned one day. From a dog who learned, over accumulated experiences, that polite communication didn't work, that their person wouldn't advocate for them, and that the only reliable way to end an overwhelming encounter was to end it themselves, with a growl, a lunge, or a snap. Being your dog's advocate is one of the simplest and most powerful things you can do. It means telling the overeager stranger, "Actually, please don't pet him, he's not comfortable with that right now." It means leaving the dog park when your dog has stopped playing and started panting and scanning. It means ending the vet visit or grooming session with a treat and some space. It means watching your dog closely enough in every situation to know when they need an exit and providing that exit before they have to demand it. A dog who trusts that you will do this is a fundamentally different dog from one who doesn't. They're calmer in new situations because they know they're not alone. They're more willing to try unfamiliar things because the person holding the leash has a track record of making those experiences manageable. They look to you in uncertain moments instead of going into self-protection mode. Trust doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require that you never make a mistake or miscalculate a situation. It requires a pattern that your dog can recognize over time. This person listens. This person responds. This person has my back. That pattern, built consistently through hundreds of ordinary moments, is what makes a dog feel genuinely safe with you. What trust actually looks like when it's there. A dog who trusts their person is not a dog who obeys perfectly or performs on command. They're a dog who relaxes in your presence, not just physically, but neurologically. A dog who, when something uncertain appears, turns to look at you rather than immediately reacting to it. A dog who offers behaviors, who tries things, who engages with you as a partner rather than navigating around you as an unpredictable variable. That dog is available to you. They're a participant in the relationship rather than a subject of it. And that is a qualitatively different experience, for the dog and for you. The 5 things on this list are entirely reversible. None of them require anything dramatic. They require slowing down, noticing more, and deciding that how your dog feels about what you do matters as much as whether they comply with it. Once you make that shift, the changes come quickly, because dogs are always paying attention, and when what you're offering starts to make sense to them, they respond to it immediately. Subscribe if you want to keep building a relationship your dog can actually rely on. It starts with the small moments, and it's never too late to start.